Good morning, Rajat. Thank you for joining in today's feedback session. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, sir. Thank you, sir, for asking. What about you?
I'm doing good as well. So, Rajat, I guess you have already checked your video that we have uploaded, and I
Yes,
guess you have also found out the areas where you need to improve and also the good points. Definitely, you have improved a lot from your previous interviews, but still there are some areas where you need to work on because as a fresher or an experienced candidate, you cannot make mistakes on those areas. So we are going
yes,
to highlight those things, and we will have a detailed review of the entire interview that you had given. Okay,
yes, sir.
so I'll just share my screen. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, sir, yes.
Great. Good morning, Rajat. Thank you for joining in today's interview session. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty fine, sir. Thank you for asking. What about you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you. So before we proceed, can you give a brief introduction about yourself?
Thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Rajat Man, born and raised in Pilani, Rajasthan. I'm a hardworking engineering graduate from Arya College of Engineering and IT, specialized in electronics and communication. Along with my degree, I have completed learning of Java language, through which I made up my mind to become a software tester. I am good at self learning and I am passionate to work for the company to enhance my logical and critical skills. On coming on my hobbies, I love to read about the new technologies which keep me updated in the market. That's all about me, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you please describe about the project that you have mentioned in your resume?
Sir, the project which I mentioned in the resume, it is about the
So your introduction was pretty good. You followed the instructions that we had given last time that your introduction should be crisp and it should be to the point. So you covered up the points wherein you mentioned about your location, you mentioned about your degree, and also you mentioned that what are the different languages that you have learned. Okay. So you can mention a single point about your project when you are introducing yourself that I have worked on multiple projects on automation testing or manual testing. You do not have to get into the project and describe unless and until the interviewer asks you. But yes, you can, since it is a it's an integral part of your resume, right? So if you can highlight one or two lines on that, then it will be great. Otherwise, it
okay,
was absolutely perfect introduction.
OpenCard, and the OpenCard is a application where we perform the testing. There are different type of modules, and we can perform different type of testing over there. And it is a e-commerce site where uh, people can buy and purchase and sell their products. So it's a complete site where we can perform every type of test.
That's great. So can you describe a time? So your project description was very good. However, if you had informed about your roles and responsibilities in the project, it would have been better. Okay. So what was your role in that? So if you can highlight that these are the things that I performed over there. It was a team project or it was a group project. Sorry, individual project or a group project. You can mention about that. So it was an Indian project or it's a project from UK or US client. And if it was a freelancing type of project that you have taken, so mention about that. So it will have a clear. The interviews will have a clear picture of the things that you have worked. Okay.
Sir, but the question is like describe about the project. So I have to provide all these things inside that.
Yes, it will be better because so what happens is that if you provide description, then what will happen? The interviewer will ask you what was your role. So if you, it is not I'm saying an in-depth analysis of everything that you have done. It's not required unless and until it is asked, but an overview. So what will happen? It will be like a flow that this was the project, this was the description, this was my roles and responsibilities. It's already mentioned in your resume. So this question the interviewer should not ask, but these questions are asked. Why? Because they check how confident are you in describing the work that you have done. Okay. So it's better
Yes.
that you cover few areas, not in depth, but an overview of one line, two line, or something like that. So it will have an overall impact to the mind of the interviewer. Ki, Acha, it's very nice.
Yes, and also while explaining project, if you highlight few modules from the project, then that will be good. Especially those the modules where you are good. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So there might be chances interviewer will ask about that module only.
Right. So whenever we also introduce ourselves or we describe about the multiple projects that we have worked over the time, we try to mention in which project we have means what was my role in that project and what are the tasks that I have done, because it gives the, so what happens, it sets the mind frame of the interviewer that these are the questions that I should ask, right? Because you have already mentioned the areas. So actually you are driving the interview. Okay. If you give the command in the hands of the interviewer, then he can take the interview in any direction he wants, which we will absolutely avoid. So it's better that from the first we try to focus on the areas wherein we are in a position to drive the interview. Okay.
Yes.
When you anticipated a problem in advance and you took some steps to stop it from becoming an issue. So the question was very clear. The question that was asked, that you anticipated. That means you found out a problem or you anticipated a problem. So anticipated means it has not yet a problem, but you were thinking that it might be a problem. Okay.
Okay.
And what happens if you, once you anticipated it, you have done something so that it does not become an issue. So what happens if we are not able to figure out some loopholes in a project? Okay, so what happens over a period of time? It becomes an issue. So here the question was, you anticipated a thing and you fixed it, but because of which it did not become an issue. So I'll just repeat the question once again. See, it was a very tricky question which required a lot of attention. That's great. So can you describe a time when you anticipated a problem in advance and you took some steps to stop it from becoming an issue? So in advance, so you anticipated a problem in advance and you took some steps so that it did not become an issue. Now see what's your reply.
Is it related to the project?
Yes. So this question was invalid. It can be anything. It can be your project. It can be something which you have done in your college life or anything. So it does not mean that it has to be related to your project. It can be anything throughout your journey that you had so far, wherein you anticipated a problem.
Yes, sir. But the question is asked in between the project and the interview. That's why I thought
That's
it's
fine.
related to
That's
the
fine.
project.
See, it is not a problem to ask a question. Okay. But sometimes what happens, suppose, for example, I had been in your place. I was answering a question related to project. Okay. And
Yes.
this question was asked. So automatically my mind will go that, okay, it is related to the project, I guess. So I'll create a scenario, because such kinds of questions are not faced by any fresher. But still you need to answer, right? You cannot say no. What happens
Yes.
if you say no? Then the interviewer will think that he's trying to avoid it or he won't be able to answer. Understood. So always you need to give some answers. If you have to make up an answer spot at that time, in that spot, you will have to do it. Okay. But
Okay.
it's fine. You asked, so the interviewer was fine with that. That okay. He was not able to understand that whether it was related to project. It can be anything. Since right now I'm giving a feedback, it can be related to anything, but with relevant to the context, if I have to say, then it will be according to the project that was asked to you. Okay.
There is a issue which I found in while working on this project. First one is the data issues. Like uh, when I was working on this application, so there is some data like if a user is logging into the system, so the username and password should be there. So if the username and password is available already, then it's fine. But if it's not available, then it will be a great issue. And another issue is connectivity, network connectivity. Sometimes the network connection is quite high, and at that time the application was performing quite well. But sometime when the connectivity is quite low, at that time there are some abnormal behavior of the application is displayed on the web. So there are 2-3 issues.
So what did you do to get that issue fixed?
To get the issue fixed,
So first of all, you did not give a complete answer when you had completed your means. You did not answer according to the question. You completed your answer and you waited for the interviewer to ask for the second question. However, the first question answer was unfinished. So it was asked that what did you do? You anticipated a problem, and what did you do to make sure that it did not become an issue later? So you mentioned these are the 2 or 3 issues that I found. But the question was, what did you do? It was a follow-up question, right? So you should have continued with the answer instead of waiting for the interviewer to ask that, what did you do? Understood what I'm trying to say?
yes,
That
yes.
he has already asked you the question. So, for example, someone has asked you that, what is your name and where do you live? So if I say my name is Rajat, and then it's ended. But there is a follow-up question as well, right?
Yes.
Where do you live? So do not wait for the interviewer to ask or repeat. It's fine, but it shows that how present are you during the time of interview. Because sometimes what happens, we think a lot, right? Yeah, jawab do, wo jawab do. There are many other things that runs in the mind, because of which we tend to fall short in these areas. So this is why we are practicing right now, because we'll have to keep our brain focused. That this is the question I have to answer. This is there in my mind, and I'll have to reciprocate according to that. Okay. And both of the times you have mentioned these were the 2 issues. These were the 2 issues. Question was problem that you stopped from becoming an issue, and you were telling about an issue. Understood? So
Yes.
there is a difference between issue and problem. Problem you anticipated, an issue that will become an ongoing thing. Okay. So
That first one is the test data. I myself did some progress and research that what type of test data is required, uh, and I make up 2-3 IDs regarding that and use that test data so that it will be available in future for the login process. And the second one is the connectivity. For connectivity, uh, uh, the network should be strong. That means the Wi-Fi and whatever the portal we are using, that should.
you a player within the project, or you had been working in a group?
Sir, I'm doing individually.
Okay. So how do you handle disagreements with peers and co-workers if you are working within a group?
Yes.
So the question was, how do you handle disagreements? Suppose you have
Yes.
one opinion and your co-worker has a different opinion, and how do you handle such kind of scenarios? Check your answer.
Sir, sorry, can you please repeat it?
Yes. How do you handle disagreements with your peers and co-workers if you had to work within a group?
Sir, then I think there will be no problem. Like I'm also a team player, and during my college days, there was a project on which I'm working. So there are 4 members, and everyone was doing their work. So there will be no problem in working as a team player or in a company with the peers.
So the answer was pretty vague, right? So question was,
Yes,
how
sir.
do you handle? You mentioned there was a project that I was working, so there will be no problem because I have already worked with a team. But problem can arise at any point of time, and it happens that whenever we are working, someone has got a different opinions, you have got a different opinion. So you should say in this kind of scenarios that I am a pretty good team player and I respect the opinions of my co-workers and peers as well. So if there is any kind of disagreement, then I'll believe that communication is the best thing. So I'll speak to him or her. We'll share. I'll listen to his or her points, and if I think that yes, those points are valid, then I'll incorporate his or her ideas within my work. And similarly, if I have to share some of my ideas, then we will mutually decide and get that job done. So I do not get into arguments or fights with my team workers because I do not have such kind of principles when I work. So it's mutual understanding and communication, I think, is the are the keys for any successful project to be completed within a team. So you can say something like that. And
Yes.
also a lot of grammatical errors you are making when you are speaking. So you told that during my college days, I am working, right? So it had already happened in the past. It can be I am working, I was working, or I had worked. So past tense, present tense, future tense, you need to be careful because what happens, the interviewer also tests your communication in English because nowadays most of the time you need to interact with the clients who's residing at some different areas, locations, geographical locations, right? So these things matters a lot. So try to develop that skill of communication, communicating in a better way. Okay. Okay. Can you describe a time when you had to make a decision but you did not have all the information to hand? So the question was you did not have all the information and you had to take a decision.
Right.
Understood?
Sir, the thing is that there is a problem which I am facing, and I don't have the proper documentation on that, and it was related to this project.
There is a problem that I am facing and it was related to the documentation. Understood? There is a problem that I am facing. That means you are in that problem right now at the moment. I am facing it's present continuous tense. So
There
I
was no
was
problem.
thinking that you are facing the problem right now. That is a problem I am facing, or right now you are working on a project. Then you mentioned that it was related to some document past tense. So it gets fluctuated, right?
Yes, sir, yes.
हिंदी में भी अगर मैं आज इधर हूँ आज खाने में खाना बना है but I am telling something about in the past which will not make any sense. So this is happening during the time of interview, right? If you have to take English in that manner. So just
Where
be cautious. Yeah.
I don't know how to proceed for the carting system. How to add the product in the carting system. Because there are a lot when I use the web element locators to identify it. At that time, there is a problem I face that there are 30 elements are displaying for that particular. If I use the XPath for particular element, so at that time I thought to ask.
So the best thing in these kinds of scenarios is that you need to mention about the project that you had worked or any other project that you had worked. You should say that the requirement was not very clear. So it was given to us that we will have to build this one. However, it was not mentioned that which module should I use or something. So I had to take a decision that if we take this module, then it will help us to deliver the project in the best way possible. So the requirement was not given to us. So the proper documentation was not there. So that means all the informations were not there. So this is how you related. The information was not there, but you took a decision as well, right? So you ensured that let's follow this module that will help us to deliver it in a better way. And it
Yes, sir.
worked.
Sir, one question.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes when I answering the question, I thought that like I am taking a lot of time of the interviewer, so I got
It's
stuck
fine
in
till
that.
the time it is valid. Till the time your answers are related to the context, then it's absolutely fine. You can take some time. It's not a problem. The interviewer will have 1 hour time for you. Okay, so that 1 hour is your time, and we need to be very logical as well. It's not like in some questions which is not required to invest more time, you are investing more time. These are the questions where you can invest time. That's fine. These are logical questions that are asked, right? So you will have to, the interviewer will also know that you will take some time to think and answer. You should not respond without thinking, because if you respond without thinking, then your answers will be incorrect. But if you are spending more time on your introduction, if you are spending more time on your projects, then it's a problem. Understood? Those things are already pre-decided. So you already know that these are the questions I will have to answer. So that answer should be crisp. These answers can be crisp, but if you're taking more time, it's fine. It's not a problem. Interviewer is also a human being. He's not a robot that he will have to complete it like this. So he will understand. So it's not a problem. So time was not an issue over here, but relevant answers was a was an issue because your answers were there, almost there, but still it was not fulfilling the questions or the requirements of the questions. If I have to be precise. Okay.
with some senior people, but I don't get a response. Maybe they are busy at that time. So I took a decision to.
So again, tense. I am pausing this and I'm continuously focusing on these things. Why? Because it is not sounding good. What you mentioned, see, they are.
I don't get a response. Maybe they are busy at that
They
time.
are busy at that time. Understood. These incidents have already occurred. How can they are busy? You could have said that I did not get a response. No need to mention that they are busy, they were busy, or something like that. Just mention that I asked about this issue with my senior members. However, I did not receive any response. Then you did that.
Okay.
So I took a decision to identify the problem on my own, and I did it.
So, but still, if you had focused on this module, so I use this module and I discussed with my team members that this should work best. However, that information was not provided to us by the clients. So, in such kind of scenarios, it's better to involve the words like clients that they did not provide the proper information. However, that was required to be presented. So I discussed about my decision with my senior members, and they also approved it, stating that yes, you have done a good job. They appreciated um, my skills, and then we followed that module and completed the job. So the flow will be good, and also the way of presentation can be better. That's great. So how do you proceed when you need to solve a problem? And can you give an example of it?
See that whether this problem is occurred in the past. So if it occurred in the past, I'm sure that whatever the uh, steps I take, I remember that, and what are the outcomes, I'll see that. And if that problem was become a big problem at that time, so I'm pretty sure that I'll not use the same steps again. I'll check. So the second thing which I'll check is I'll check what are the other outcomes or what are the other possible ways to solve this problem, or I'll speak with the experience or the person who has the knowledge regarding that problem. So these are the steps which I take.
So that was a bang on answer. It was perfect. So you mentioned that that's a very good answer. I have also not checked this video, but it was a very good answer. Many senior persons won't be able to give such kind of answers because you mentioned that whether the problem had occurred in the past, and then I'll do some different steps, and also I'll check some different ways to solve that problem. So it was a
Yes.
perfect answer. Very good.
Okay, so for a problem to solve, and in a project like I told you in the previous question that I faced the karting system problem, so I referred a YouTube video, and there is a there is a solution for that problem. And
So for social media platforms, do not specifically mention any YouTube or Google. It will be better if you use social media this time. So it can be anything, right? So it's do not specify anything. Just try to keep it more generalized.
okay, but that concept is different, and I use and I
That's great. So I'm now going to ask you some logical questions, so you can think and answer to these questions. Okay.
yes.
So there is a room with no doors and no windows. Okay. A man is found hung from the ceiling, and a puddle of water is on the floor. Can you say how did he die? So basically, the question was there is a room with no doors and no windows, and someone has committed a suicide, and there was a puddle of water. So as we discussed earlier, that the man had committed suicide by standing on a block of ice. So
Yes, sir.
he got hung by standing on a block of ice. So he got hung, and the ice melted, and he died. For that reason, there is a puddle of water, right? Since the ice melted, and he was standing. If you have to commit suicide by hanging, you have to stand somewhere and hang yourself, and then you have to remove the object below you, right? So this was the answer basically. If you have to relate all the context properly.
Actually, sir, this question, like if they are in the written on a paper, at that time we can see that what are the what is the exact answer we have to find. But when we are
Right.
talking on a video call, it's like bit
It
confusing.
becomes difficult, right? Those are some challenges that we have during virtual sessions, and but if you, because this was the question where I went to Amazon for an interview. This was the question that was asked to me as well, and it was a virtual session. So
Okay.
you have to be very, very present, and you'll have to ensure. There are a lot of other tough questions as well that we will discuss in the later part. But yes, so it happens in general as well. So that there at that time there was no pandemic, but still it was asked. So definitely you should always have pen and paper. If you have to make a note of the points, you should, because at the start also I mentioned that take a notebook,
Yes,
pen
sir.
and paper, and if you have to write, make a note of it. You can ask the interviewer to repeat the question and note down the points. Understood? I'll repeat the question. You can make a note of it if you want. See, I also mentioned that I make a note of it.
Yes, sir.
So this point proves invalid right now because it was told to you to write down one.
Yes.
So there is a room with no doors and no windows. Floor.
Sir, there is no door, no window, and the person dies by like hanging,
Right.
and there is a water on the floor.
There is a puddle of water here.
So at this time I was thinking that how the man enters in that room, as there is no window
Correct. You could
or
have
door.
said that as well, because I asked this question to a different candidate. He mentioned that, as you were mentioning that there are no doors and no windows, then how did the man enter? So that was also a valid answer. You could have given anything. See, these
Maybe,
questions are basically
maybe,
judged,
sir.
right?
Yes, sir. Maybe the man enters from the top, like there is no top on there.
Anything. But see, these questions, that doesn't mean that you will have to give a right answer. It is the right approach that the interviewer wants to hear. Okay, even if your answer might be incorrect, that's absolutely fine. But what is your approach to the question is what is judged over here. Even if you give the right answer, will it work anywhere in my team or it will work anywhere in my project? It's not a crime investigating department that you're working, right?
Yes.
So it's the approach that matters and the confidence that matters. Let's go here. If a red house is made from red bricks, a pink house is made from pink bricks, a blue house is made from blue bricks,
नाही
and
नाही
what is greenhouse made from?
करकर आहे फक्त फॅन लागत आहेत
Greenhouse.
I'll repeat the question. If a red house is made from red and blue bricks,
So this must be glass, right?
greenhouse is made up of gases, right? You have read in your environmental science, right? Greenhouse gas, carbon dioxide,
sir.
carbon monoxide. So those make a greenhouse, right? So this was the answer basically. You remember greenhouse, ultraviolet
Yes, sir.
rays,
Yeah,
comes, but
that-
they are not. They get trapped due to the greenhouse. So greenhouse are nothing but it's made up of gases. So
Yes,
it
sir,
was.
At
Right,
that time,
yes.
I was thinking like you asked that blue house made up of blue bricks. So I'm pretty sure that greenhouse is not made up of green bricks, but there is
Correct.
something else. But I am not
Correct.
able to connect that particular word.
Right. So herein, since you were not able to connect, but you mentioned that definitely it is not connected to bricks. So it's fine. So I understood that you have understood the problem that I was basically asking you. It's fine. So correct, incorrect answers doesn't matter in this kinds of question. It's the approach that matters. So I was happy that you were able to relate that definitely it won't get connected to the bricks. Fine. For me, the answer is correct. Understood. But if you have to get the correct answer, it will be gases.
Green bricks. This is a greenhouse question. I don't remember the word.
Okay. Not a problem. So another question I would like to ask. If some of the months have 31 days, as you know, and some have 30 days, so how many months have only 28 days? So the question, your answer was incorrect. How many months have only 28 days? It was not asked how many months had 28 days? Only 28 days, right?
Okay. Only one.
Correct. So your answer should be either 1 or 0. During leap years, there are no months with only 28 days. However, when there is not a leap year, there will be 1. I knew that you will say all. That's why it was only.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out. So there is someone in the comment section who have mentioned this. The answer is either 1 or 0. So that person have heard it properly. If you can go and check the comments, you will find that someone has observed it. So yes.
Only one. No. Sorry.
So you were giving the right answer because I knew that you would get confused. Because in general, this is a puzzle wherein the answer will be all the months or something. I thought, okay, he has given the right answer, but then you changed yourself. Yes. Right. Thank you for answering these questions. So I'm done with the HR round. We'll start with the technical round. If you want to have a glass of water in between, you can have.
Yeah, I have a question. Say it's a logical question. So if there's a cake, okay, and you have to cut the cake in the equal parts, and you have only 3 attempts.
So actually, the question was a bit incorrect over here. It has to be mentioned that how many parts you will have to divide it, and if you have got 3 attempts. I think he later improvised it a bit and mentioned that how many parts it has to be divided. So yes. Otherwise, if the first question, if I have to answer, then you can say in three attempts I can make it in 3 equal halves. If the first question is valid, but later on he changed the question. So I'll give this point to you because the interviewer was incorrect over here.
No problem, sir.
In 3, like we have to cut the cake in the 3 parts or
8
equal
parts.
parts.
Yeah,
8
8
part.
equal parts.
Okay, 8 equal parts.
And you have 3 attempts to cut it.
Right. If it is 8 equal parts, 3 attempts, have you checked how to do it?
No, sir. I found it more difficult than other ones.
It's simple, man, and nothing
Not
much
on
logic,
maths.
you know. So what you have to do first, like you have a assume that you have a circular, okay, circle of 360, okay. So you cut into equal half, 2 half, okay. Okay, sorry for the disturbance. So it is like 2 equal parts, and then again you cut it in the diagonal and the vertical, so it becomes 4 parts. You just give a middle cut, so it becomes 8 equal parts in 3 attempts.
Wow. Nice.
So you make a quadrant at first, right? So it becomes
Yeah,
4, and then in middle you cut it, so you will get 8 parts into 2, right? 4 into 2 each. So in that way you can do it.
that was clever.
And in simple way, you can say like plus sign and then one
Right.
horizontal cut. That's it.
Yes.
So it
So
was
these
asked
were
in
the
my
questions
interview.
basically,
Yes.
right? That was asked during your HR round. So definitely your performance improved, but I guess you right now have an idea that exactly wherein you need to work and which answers require more attention. Okay.
Yes.
So we'll start with the technical feedback now. If you want to have a glass of water, you can have. Okay.
That's all fine.